nobody really wants to be dragged into it. They don't want to be forced to give names up. It's all obviously very secret. Most of these hearings actually we're not actually allowed in. It's only a couple of them that we do get access, and the rest of them are behind closed doors. And even when we're listening to the hearings, sometimes the voices are changed. I spoke to someone close to him today, and they were telling me that Johnny is still, as of today, refusing to reveal the names of Special Forces soldiers that he mentioned to the judge during these hearings last month. And I know that he is believed to be trying to discuss with those soldiers whether they would be prepared to have their names put forward. But as of yet, my understanding is they aren't happy for those names to be put forward. So he's refusing to do so. So he's got 10 days to make a decision. Then there is the possibility that he is then, well, threatened with a fine or jail. I know that he can appeal whatever decision the judge comes to. But I mean, it's pretty incredible stuff that we could have a cabinet minister being sent to jail because of all of this. And also it's a bit unclear whether he'd have to resign from his position if he refuses to cooperate with the inquiry. It's all just very unclear at the moment. Johnny's always been sort of a lone wolf to some extent. He does seem to get into arguments with fellow ministers. I know that he clashed with James Heappey. He also clashed with Ben Wallace when he was Defence Secretary. So I haven't necessarily spoken to anyone that's sort of coming out and backing him. But I know that former military chiefs are actually doing so. Lord Dannatt issued a statement today saying that he was, effectively showing his support for Johnny and saying that, this is about Johnny keeping the protection protecting the identity of whistleblowers. These Special Forces soldiers are not actual suspects. These are just people that wanted to be candid and open with Johnny when he was a minister. What I'm not clear on is, have they, the Ministry of Defence obviously will know all these soldiers that were involved in these operations. So if the Ministry of Defence is compelled to give them these names, then surely the inquiry judge should have actually everything that he needs in that sense. Obviously, there's a lot of concern within the Special Forces about all of this. Nobody really wants to be dragged into it. They don't want to be forced to give names up. It's all obviously very secret. Most of these hearings actually we're not actually allowed in. It's only a couple of them that we do get access, and the rest of them are behind closed doors. And even when we're listening to the hearings, sometimes the voices are changed. So we can't even, we have no clue of the identity of these people. He's looking into claims that Special Forces soldiers were killing unarmed Afghan civilians during the war. And some of these may have been suspected Taliban fighters, but the point is that they weren't armed. And obviously, soldiers shouldn't be killing people unless they pose a direct threat to them. We heard from Johnny, actually. Johnny was telling us about one Special Forces soldier that he spoke to that had been asked to carry a drop weapon. And a drop weapon is basically a weapon that doesn't, it doesn't show to be belonging to the British or NATO forces, so it could belong to anybody. And you'd use that to be able to plant next to a suspected Taliban fighter to make it look like they were armed. So obviously that's incredibly dodgy stuff, and we're yet to hear from sort of some of the main people that we are waiting to hear from. Some of those Special Forces soldiers believed to be actually involved in these units that were carrying out these operations. But it's all very murky stuff. It's been going on for years, and I suppose the irony of all this is that Johnny himself was a few years ago was raising concerns with Ben Wallace, the then Defence Secretary, saying that he thought there was merit in some of these allegations, and then now it's him that's facing potential jail over it all. Yeah, it was it was incredibly sort of awkward and tense watching the hearing, actually, because the judge really laid into Johnny, and Johnny was just refusing to give the names, and he was under a lot of pressure. But I suppose as a minister, he's put under a lot of pressure on many occasions. But I suppose you would not expect to be threatened with prison in that circumstance. So I'm presuming that he's he's probably really feeling it at the moment. It's a tough decision that he's going to have to make.
James Heappey is resigning as the Armed Forces Minister. Now we saw his, as it were, departure coming. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the Times broke the story a few days ago now that he was leaving. He is leaving his role as an MP. He won't be standing at the next election, and he felt that it was necessary for him to also then leave that post as Armed Forces Minister early. The Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, had actually asked him to stay on, but James has decided to go now. And it'll be interesting to see what he says when he's out of the job, because obviously this is an opportunity for him to really tell us what is going on inside the MOD. How much money does he really want the department to get? What is necessary? Have we got enough munitions? Have we got enough ships? Have we got enough planes? And yes, I think it'll just be fascinating to see what he tells us over the next few days.
And I think we know, Larisa, don't we, that James Heappey has not been happy with the level of resources given to national defence, to the MOD.
No, he's been quite fairly quiet about it compared to other ministers, but he did say yesterday during Defence Questions, this was his last time at the dispatch box, he did say that he thought that we needed to be meeting that 2.5% target as outlined by Rishi urgently, because at the moment we have no idea when the Tories are actually going to commit to that 2.5%. And he also suggested that the next Prime Minister should also look at spending more. That's obviously aligned to Grant Shapps, the Defence Secretary, who himself has said that we should be spending 3%. So yes, he obviously does want more for the department.